Are the Baylor Bears overrated now? Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. I appreciate y'all making it your first listen today and every day. And before we get into the show today, just wanted to wish all the veterans out there a happy Veterans Day. It's obviously something very important to us, and by that I mean me here at Locked On Baylor. So go out, thank a veteran today. They do not get thanked enough for their service, and they all deserve that thanks as much as they can get. So thank you to all those of you who have served or are serving or are part of military families here in the USA. We appreciate the heck out of you. Especially those of us at the Locked On Podcast Network. So thank you, thank you, thank you. On today's episode of Locked On Baylor, we're going to be going over the win against Arkansas over the weekend. Who looked impressive? Who sounded pretty stupid? Jimmy Dykes. And taking a look at, even though Baylor football had a bye week, the controversy in the Holy War and how that could be a greater issue in the Big 12 than we believe it to be right now. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. So I was at the game Saturday night, Baylor, Arkansas, top 20 matchup at the AAC. Really good atmosphere at an NBA arena for a Saturday in November with college football going on. Now, it worked out perfectly because these two football programs were on a bye, and John Calipari likes having that Dallas metro because, I mean, really the two big metros for Arkansas alums are Little Rock and Dallas, and he also really recruits well out of the Dallas area. And one thing brought up on the broadcast was that, Cal wanted this game. He wanted this Saturday, Dallas, AAC, and he was looking for takers. And Scott Drew, again, they drag on the floor with Scott Drew. When he means anytime, anywhere, he means anytime, anywhere, as evidenced by the fact that he went up to Spokane in a neutral site game in game one and played Gonzaga. So, of course, Scott Drew was the one to say, yeah, we'll play you. Dallas, sure. We'll split it down the middle. Let's do it. And the Bears get the win, the big-time bounce-back win, 72-67. So I was at the game, did the post-game show up there. If you haven't checked it out, check it out for some of the raw reaction to it. But then I came home, it's 11 p.m. at night, and I don't have anything better to do. I rewatched the game and to get kind of a better view of what actually happened during it. And I have some more thoughts on the game and some of the players that I got to see upon further review and change my opinions about. That's coming up in the next segment. But what really floored me was right at the top of the broadcast with I apologize, I don't know the play-by-play guy, and Jimmy Dykes, longtime commentator, color commentator for college basketball, former coach, former player. He was on the call for the analysis. And like right at the top of the broadcast, he's talking about Baylor and their loss to Gonzaga. And he right away says, yeah, Baylor was probably overrated and overvalued in the preseason polls. I'm like, whoa. Like they lost a game against a team that was ranked higher than them. It was bad. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we all went through it for the week. 38 points is 38 points, right? You're not supposed to lose games like that. But to just go out and say that they're overrated after game one and right ahead of a top 20 matchup, to me is just stupid, to be totally honest with you. For a program like Baylor, it's not like they're a fluke. It's not like they're just in the top 10 for no reason. Because they're in the top 10 because they're in the top 10 every year. And for him to just come out and say overrated, I was like, whoa, okay. And then in the second half, he doubles down on it. And he said, yeah, Baylor was overrated coming into this. And they replaced 4 of their 5 starters. And so he said they shouldn't have been ranked in the top 10. And I'm thinking, okay, 2 thoughts here. Based on what Jimmy didn't and did say throughout this. He went on basically in the same breath to say that preseason polls mean nothing, which I kind of agree with him on. I mean, they don't really mean a lot. But if they don't mean a lot, then how is Baylor overrated? And secondly, he cites the fact that Baylor replaced 4 or 5 stars. This is not a team that's played together. And so they're overrated at being in the top 10. Did not say a single word about Arkansas being ranked 16th and having 0 starters return from the year before. In fact, 1 player returning from the year before and having a completely new coaching staff. They did not finish the season in the top 16. And he goes and says, oh, they're not overrated. Didn't mention a damn thing about Arkansas being in the top 20, who played Lipscomb game 1. Oh, no, they're not overrated. Just Baylor is overrated because they haven't played together, and look what they did against a team that could legitimately win the national championship in Gonzaga. Could really win the damn thing. They're overrated. Yeah. Good call, Jimmy. Bears get the win. Had nothing to say about it afterwards or towards the end of the game. Nothing to say about it when the Bears did not trail for a single second against the apparently not overrated Arkansas. Nope. But doubled down in the second half that this team was overrated and overvalued as a way for him to say overrated without saying overrated. Well, how about now? They just beat your underrated or perfectly rated Arkansas Razorbacks, beat them without trailing for a second. So are they overrated now, Jimmy? And why doesn't he say anything about Arkansas or John Calipari? Because look, I respect the hell out of Calipari. He's one of the best coaches that is still coaching. And I think this is a good Arkansas team. They're not a 3-point shooting team, as we'll talk about in a couple minutes. But I think this is a good team that can challenge in the SEC. They can challenge Bama. I don't think they're quite as good, but they can. So why didn't Jimmy say anything about Arkansas? That might require some legwork because Jimmy has had a long career in basketball, a lot of analysis, but he also played college basketball and he was a head coach in college basketball, actually women's college basketball. And what's funny is he actually played and coached at the same place. The only place he played college basketball and was a head coach in college basketball was the University of Arkansas. Woo pig, Jimmy. Woo pig. No wonder Baylor was the overrated one. But Bears get the win. Are they overrated now, Jimmy? I can't hear you. Are they overrated now? And by the way, Jimmy might have been looking at some of the comments from the postgame against Gonzaga because they're in Baylor Twitter after that loss against Gonzaga, because there were some of you who were saying they were overrated. Most of us said, hey, maybe let's give this some time. Let's wait till at least after the second top 20 matchup. And thankfully we did, because I think the Bears are not overrated now. But let's take a deep dive as to how the Baylor Bears knocked off Jimmy Dykes' unbeatable Arkansas Razorbacks, coming up on Locked On Baylor. First, 5-Hour Energy. You guys know I need these things. Our friends over there know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through the all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or that second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5-Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us. The fans who are first in the parking lot and last to leave. We see y'all, okay? We need it, especially when we have a top 20 basketball matchup on the football bye week. We need the 5-Hour Energy. You know what else gives me a bit of that Baylor Bears fan fuel this week? It's going to be that moment when they win in Morgantown for the first time ever. 5-Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate, ironing that jersey, or your game day to-do list is just a mile long, you got a lot to get through. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5-Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with 5-Hour Energy. Available at 5hourenergy.com and shipping nationwide. Enough of that. Enough of the Jimmy Dykes thing. We don't need more Jimmy Dykes. Okay? can do without some Jimmy Dykes on these Baylor broadcasts. Y'all are hating on Fran Fraschilla all the time. I am on the Jimmy Dykes hate train right now. I'll take Fran any day of the week over Jimmy Dykes. Oh, why he's even on an Arkansas game? It's beyond me. But the Bears do get the win over the Razorbacks, 72-67. That's the most important thing about all of this. And again, they did not trail at all in this game. Arkansas got it close a couple of times. They tied it a couple of times. But as I said in the post game, there really wasn't a moment in this game where you thought, oh boy, here it comes. Oh no, Baylor's going to fall apart. Or, oh man, Arkansas's really figured this out. Better buckle in. Nope. Arkansas has enough talent and has a Hall of Fame head coach so that they could keep in this game, even though Baylor was exploiting their weaknesses. But Baylor also has a Hall of Fame coach. He's just not there yet in Springfield. And they also have a really talented roster. And they had a great game plan coming into this thing. They zoned the heck out of them. I mean, zoned the whole game, which we saw just a little bit of against Gonzaga. And it was really, really impressive in this game against Arkansas. Again, the Razorbacks shot 21% from three against Lipscomb. There's not a three-point shooting team. And Baylor knew that from the personnel and one game on tape. Yes, one game. Because another thing Jimmy Dykes did, I'm not quite done with Jimmy just yet. He kept talking about Baylor in one game against Gonzaga. And when he would talk about Arkansas, he would talk about 3 games, which included 2 exhibitions. Like, who cares about that? Who is actually taking an exhibition into mind when talking about these two teams when they've played a regular season game? Is that bizarre? That's like really bizarre, right? And he never mentioned Baylor's exhibitions. They were secret scrimmages, but he would have had some intel. He would have known the people. Instead, just only talked about Arkansas's. Anyway, so they're not a three-point shooting team. You hold them to 25% from 3. Make them shoot over it. There were a couple times in that game where coming out of timeouts, Cal had coached them up like, hey, run this set, get this guy to this spot. It's a soft spot in the zone. And they got a couple of easy 2s. But other than that, Baylor suffocated them in the zone defense. They just couldn't live with it. And you couple that with how strong and skilled Norchad Omier is defensively, one-on-one, and that could be a recipe for Baylor. Now, the thing that does concern me about the Bears is that offense. There was still too much ISO ball in this one. Still too much. You made some good adjustments in that Jaden Nunn was more aggressive. I mean, he barely looked like he was playing offense against Gonzaga. He was real aggressive in this one, had 7 of their first 10 points. He's getting to the hole, took his open threes, made a bunch of them. And I thought he was a huge bright spot in this game. Norchad gets the recognition as the whatever that game was, MVP. He gets the double-double, 15 and 12. I thought he deserved to have that. But Jaden Nunn is the leading scorer in the game at 16 points, 4 of 7 from 3. Didn't have an assist, only 1 turnover. But that's kind of getting to my point here about what I didn't like about the Baylor offense is they're still not moving the ball enough. They're still not. And they only had 11 assists on 25 made baskets in game 1. And they only had 12 assists in this game too. 12 assists on 27 baskets. And that's just not going to be good enough against Big 12 teams. You're not going to be able to ISO ball these teams. I know Houston lost on Saturday too, but try doing ISO against those guys and you're in for a long night. The players are too good. The defenses are too good. The coaches are too good in this conference. And what I was really surprised by is Rob Wright had another good game, double figures, 10 points on 3 of 4 from the field in 17 minutes. His defense is going to need to come around for him to play more. But when I watched, man, that offense was just moving more. There was more movement without the ball. It was more of an active offense when Rob Wright was running the show. Obviously, I'm not saying like, hey, he's got to be your starting point guard right now. You went out and got Jeremy Roach for a reason. And Jeremy Roach has been talking about, hey, I'm the point guard. I'm going to be the point guard of this team. I need to see more ball movement if that's going to be the case. This is an unofficial count, but on the rewatch, I had 8 or 9 possessions where 2 guys or 1 guy touched the basketball. and they scored on 2 of them. That's not going to work. I'm telling you. And the 8 or 9, that's too many. That's too many possessions where almost nobody is touching the ball. And I saw more movement with Rob Wright out there. I thought Roach played good defense. He drew 2 charges. That's a Duke guy, if ever I've seen one. You know how I feel about the Duke guys. You don't get the name Cameron for nothing, okay? Hustle plays. He had some of them and had 13 points. It's not like he was terrible. But, again, 2 assists from him. I just need more ball movement. I need more sets. I got to have it because I think this Baylor team can be really dangerous in transition. Okay, I really think so. If they're running the floor and going fast, they can be a dangerous offensive team. But they haven't had the full court press work yet, and their best defense is the zone. So you can't be a team that wants to slow the game down on the defensive end, but then run and gun on offense. It's just not going to work. It's not going to happen like that. If you want to slow the game down, slow the game down. But you got to be a good, crisp, cutting offensive team. And that's what I just haven't seen a lot of are the cuts and movement without the ball. I just need to see some more of that. One player we haven't mentioned so far is VJ Edgecombe. VJ had 11 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, but only shot at 3 of 12 from the floor, 1 of 7 from 3. And he did not shoot the ball well, nor do a lot of things well in that game 1 against Gonzaga. And I said it in the postgame show. I was like, disappointed is not the right word, but I'm like, it's only game 2 of his college career. Okay. Only game 2. So that's why I'm not disappointed, but I'm like, there's going to be more that we're going to see from this guy. And on the rewatch, not in the arena, I got to say, guys, I was much more impressed with his game watching it on TV than I was in the arena. And I mean, that's just a me thing. That's just me not picking up as many things when I'm at the game. But he was active, especially defensively. They switched on to him a couple of times, even in a zone that was by design. And he held his ground against guards, held his ground against forwards. The kid is strong, he is long, and he is big. And those are 3 different things, okay? And he has all of them. And that's why I'm thinking he can be a legit, really good on-ball defender, even as a freshman. And a freshman who knows that he is going to be a lottery pick in the NBA draft. I was very impressed with him. Obviously, he has, a great dunk. He has an awesome block, which I have watched 15 times since it happened on Saturday. That was not a foul. That was all ball. And the officials did not know what to do with an athlete like that. In the NBA, VJ, they're going to know that wasn't a foul. But here in November of a college basketball game, they are not going to know that. But he was incredible. Obviously, his leaping ability got him some big rebounds. And especially at the end of the game, he steals a possession for them on an offensive rebound in the final minute. That's huge. This is a guy who's not a shooter necessarily, and he missed 2 free throws earlier in the game, and he's a freshman playing against a number 16 team in the country. And yet he was out there at the end of the game. Scott Drew said it in the ESPN interview afterwards, which I can't use because I'll get demonetized. But he says, look, people talk about scorers and defenders and this and that, but VJ is a winner, and I like coaching winners. And he made winning plays. And some of that intangible thing you won't see in the box score. But if you watch that game or you were at that game, VJ made winning plays. And he has earned the trust of Scott Drew and that coaching staff already. That speaks tremendous volumes. Tremendous volumes. I would still love to see some more plays that are drawn up for VJ. Again, cutting through the lane, slashing. I think that's where he's going to be most effective offensively. Almost as a lob threat, which is kind of weird to say as a guard, but that same mentality of like get him off a screen, off a pick and roll, like that guy cutting to the basket is going to be almost impossible to stop. So that's where I think VJ is going to become super valuable. But if you watched it yesterday, which on the second watch, I really noticed he was really valuable at both ends of the floor. And again, you're not going to see it when you look at the box score at 3 for 12. And people are going to be thinking this right now, like, dude, shut up. He was 3 for 12. How is that good? If you watch it, you'll know. He looked good. And so did the Bears. That's how you handle a top 20 team. You lose by 38 in game 1 and win by 5 in game 2 in 2 top 20 matchups, neither of them being home games. A 43-point swing in 5 days is incredible, no matter how you cut it. Okay, should they have lost by 38 in game 1? No, but they came back and won in a game they never trailed against a Hall of Fame coach and a top 20 team. Believe it or not, Scott Drew can coach. Newsflash, Scott Drew can coach, and this program can play basketball. I love it. I love it. One thing I don't necessarily love are Big 12 officials, especially in football. And neither does Utah. They really don't like it. But let's take a look at the antics by Utah's AD after the Holy War and why that might reveal a bigger problem in this conference. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Tackle the NFL action with America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you're going to be able to check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The big story in the Big 12 this weekend was the Holy War. BYU comes back to knock off Utah in dramatic fashion, keep the undefeated season alive at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Boy, was it everywhere. After dark, it was 1 a.m. I'm watching this one after the rewatch of the Baylor basketball game. It was incredible. But obviously what people are going to be talking about is the 4th and 10. First off, quick recap. BYU was 4th and 10 inside their own, 5-10 yard line. And like in the middle of the play, Retzlaff is rolling out and he just kind of throws the ball in the turf. Everyone's like, what's happening? Rice-Eccles was so loud that nobody could hear Kalani Sitake call a timeout before that play. So let's do 4th and 10 again. They don't get it again, but the flag comes out. Defensive holding, automatic first down. Cougs go right down the field after that and kick the game-winning field goal to win it 22-21. And it was a tough scene in Salt Lake after that. Kyle Whittingham berating the officials after the game, throwing a chair at the end of the press conference. But it was Mark Harlan, the Utah AD, that made the headlines by saying this.
I've been an athletic director for 12 years. This game was absolutely stolen from us. We were excited about being in the Big 12, but tonight I am not. We won this game. Someone else stole it from us. Very disappointed. I will talk to the commissioner. This was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew tonight. Thank you.
Mark Harlan is disgusted with Big 12 officials. He didn't want to be in this conference anymore. And I thought it was really unfair that the Big 12 officials made sure that Utah did not score a point in the second half. And I think it's really doubly unfair that the Big 12 officials did not stop BYU after that first down and get them all the way into field goal range and win the game. I think that's really unfair to Utah. Part of me is big boo-hoo on this, Mark. Okay? Like, really, you guys did not score a point in the second half. That's not the officials' fault. And looking at it on replay, Brock Osweiler loved the call. I don't love the call. I don't think it's a great call, to be totally honest with you, especially at that point in the game. But you don't want to be in the Big 12? Love it or leave it, brother. We gave you a life raft to come to this conference. Your conference, you want to go back to that? You want to go back to the Pac-12? Go right ahead. Go right ahead. And that's going to cost Mark Harlan some money today because apparently he did talk to Brett Yormark and it did not go well. Did not go well whatsoever. In fact, it did not go well to the tune of a $40,000 fine. Whew. How about this from Yormark? Mark's comments irresponsibly challenged the professionalism of our officials and the integrity of the Big 12 Conference. There is a right way and a wrong way to voice concerns. Unfortunately, Mark chose the wrong way. Accordingly, this violation warrants a public reprimand and financial penalty. The Big 12 Conference prioritizes professionalism, integrity, and fairness, and will continue to do so. And he has been issued a $40,000 fine. That's coming from a press release right from Brett Yormark's office at the Big 12. Part of me is the one saying, boo-hoo, dude. You win some, you lose some. It was probably not a great call, but you didn't score a point in the second half. You let them back into the game. But part of me also remembers how this links back to Baylor and Mack Rhodes in a different sport, Big 12 basketball officials, some 9 months ago when Baylor took on Iowa State and that guy whose name I can't even remember tossed out Scott Drew, and the game completely tipped in Iowa State's favor, and every call started going Iowa State's way, and it led to a Cyclones 20-0 run in which 13 of those 20 points came from the free throw line. But that was probably just a coincidence. Or was it? Because after that game, Mack Rhodes, the Baylor AD, he wanted to talk to the media in the press conference as well.
For those of you that don't know, I'm not somebody that calls the officials or calls the league after every game. In fact, I never call when it comes to officiating. It's always about, hey, we need to play better, we need to execute better, we need to play tougher, all of those things. But tonight was an embarrassment for this league. Period. Scott said it. We have the best basketball league in the country. And the officiating tonight did not match up. Period. End of story. This league needs to get better when we think about our officiating. And we have some great officials. But this particular crew tonight did not match the level of this game. And that shouldn't happen in this league.
Sometimes you need to do it. Sometimes you need to talk about it. I thought Mac's approach was a little bit more measured, and that's probably why he only got a $25,000 fine rather than a $40,000. He didn't say he wanted to leave this conference, that he wasn't excited to be in this conference anymore because we like the Big 12. But a lot of the sentiment is still there. And what it makes me think of is a play in the Baylor TCU game last week. You guys might remember this. Baylor was down at the goal line. We'll do a quick recap again. They got to the 1. They got called for a false start, which they thought might have been something on TCU. The Baylor sidelines thought. False start backs them up to the 6. Then, as Baylor's running a trick play, the flag is thrown again as the ball is being snapped. And the flag is being thrown for the officials to get on the microphone and clarify to anyone who will listen the fact that they called a false start on the play before. Yeah, we already knew that. We already heard it. In fact, we were running another play. And so then Baylor gets up to the line again, shows their formation again on a goal line play. Another flag gets thrown as the ball is being snapped. Then they want to go and review the first play. That was actually 2 plays before. And they reviewed it and called a penalty on TCU for having too many men on the field. What are we doing? I said it at the time, even in a Baylor win. What are we doing? That is officiating incompetence. It truly, truly was. So every conference wants to say that their officials are worse than the others. It's like squirrels on your college campus. Everyone's got squirrels on your campus. They're not special. All the conferences have officiating that can be better. You're not special. But I'll come back to this. The officials did not stop BYU on that final drive. They did not score any points for Utah in the second half. Utah lost the game. They lost. And if it's because of that you don't want to be in this Big 12 anymore, Don't let it hit you on the way out. Bye-bye. We don't need you. We'll keep the other school from Utah in here, okay? Because Mark Harlan sounded like a ton of Utah fans that felt they were above this conference. And they were supposed to win this conference this year. And now they're in free fall, and it's the officials' fault. $40,000 out of the bank account. And if you want to leave, go right ahead. I don't think Brett Yormark's going to stop him at this point, personally. But all that to say, there is some incompetencies in the officiating in this conference. And Utah fans will be taking a victory lap at some point because it will happen to BYU at some point too. And you hope it doesn't cost you a game. Like it's against TCU, Baylor had 2 goal line plays and formations essentially on tape, greatly giving an advantage to the defense. And in that case, TCU. It did not come back to bite them in terms of losing the game, but we all see it. And you're going to get it if you play in the Mountain West or if you play in the Pac-12, because those are your other options. AAC, you'll get it there too. So I don't want to hear it because we all go through it. And that's not the reason you lost the game. End of story. Anyway, let me know what you think about Utah and their AD. Drop that down in the comments below. Boy, would I love to get another shot at Utah. Oh, boy, would I love to get another shot at the Utes at this point in the season. Drop that down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about this bounce-back Baylor basketball win. Are they back? Are they finally rated now? Were they overrated after game 1? Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video on YouTube and then wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. Let's start to get you ready for the Mountaineers, shall we? That's coming up this week on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.